Hello, welcome back. So this is day 3 of the composition project work. So once again, you shouldn't have had to submit anything to me yet. We're still just working towards that. First time you're going to have to submit something is on Thursday, but let's keep working. So yesterday, we were working at creating a steady beat, and I've kept the ones that I used from yesterday to kind of show you some examples of how to do some stuff. I won't go through all the stuff about getting onto SongMaker again. If you need more instructions on that, you can take a look at the past video for that, or take a look at the past instructions. So I've got the stuff that I saved from yesterday, so take a look at this. This is one of the steady beats that we created, and we are going to create a background now, a background part to our song. So now we're going to start using some notes, and the notes are going to consist of a background as well as a melody. So we're going to work with that. Now, let's talk a little bit about what is going to make a good background. There are lots of different things you can do with this, so I'm not going to limit you to too many things, or I'm not going to give you too many rules. I'm going to kind of leave it up to you, but I will give you some suggestions on how to do this well. So, much like your steady beat, you want this to be pretty steady and repetitive, and you want it to be simple and predictable, right? This is just the background. We don't want it to take up too much of the attention of the listener. We want this to be in the back. We want it to be something that people just kind of hear kind of casually as they're listening to the song. So, like I said, simple and predictable. Those of you who've seen me do the Katy Perry thing will know that part of that is going to include just some straight lines. This is just one idea. So we'll start with this. Take a listen to this. Very simple, very predictable. We're going to add some layers on top of that, but first I'm going to go through a couple more things. So a couple things you want to think about as you're creating your background is what is your rhythm going to be in the background. In this case, with this one, I've just chosen some straight up lines like this. We'll do some other stuff in just a second here, but yeah, so in this case, the rhythm is just straight up. Will it line up exactly with your bass or with your steady beat that you've created in this case? No, just got a straight line. It's not lining up with these beats or anything like that, but it could, and we'll explore that in just a second, like I said. Will it have more than one note going on or more than one rhythm? Now, that's something that we can explore as well, and I will talk about that in a second, but maybe let's just add this here and this here. So, in order to keep things nice and simple and repetitive and easy to follow, we want to make sure that we don't have too many notes going on at once or too many ideas going on at once. You might want, in this case, we just have the straight lines going for the rhythm and then 2 notes. You might have 3, you might just have 1, but any more than that and it's going to start to get confusing. If you have more than one thing going on in the background or even more than 2 things, you could probably have 2 things going on as far as rhythms. But then it starts to get a little bit complicated and a little bit difficult for your ear to hear what's going on in the melody up here if there's just too much going on down here. By the way, for this, the background, what we're going to do is we're going to try and stick to the background being down in this section, and then the melody is going to go up here. So if you're going to create a background, try and use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then if you want, you can use this top line here on top of this blue line as part of the background, but I wouldn't go any higher than that because otherwise you're going to start attracting attention to the background as people are listening to it, and you want the attention to be on the melody, and we're going to talk about that tomorrow. But focus in on this, creating some background stuff. So a couple other things. Let's talk about notes. What notes are going to sound good? When in doubt, you might want to focus in on 1, 3, and 5. So these ones here are pretty much always going to sound good together if you go 1, 3, and 5, skipping 1 in between. So if you do those notes together, or even just 2 of them, they're probably going to sound pretty good. So that's one thing that you can do. Another thing that you might want to sort of think about, if you have notes that are 1 space apart, those notes are probably going to sound pretty good too. So for example, if I did this instead, and I put that up there, this still works. So if notes are one space apart, they kind of harmonize pretty well. And there's some, technical musical reasons for that we'll get into eventually. But for now, one space apart means that the note will probably harmonize pretty well together. So there's a good suggestion for you to kind of focus on what notes you want to have in your melody, or in your background, that is. The melody is going to be something we'll talk about tomorrow. Now, I just have to repeat simple and repeated ideas, right? You don't want anything too complicated down here, otherwise this is going to get difficult to hear. So let's finish up with this one. We're going to take this simple idea and we're just going to repeat it again, because it is just the background. So the whole thing. Very simple. So we're going to create a melody on top of this tomorrow, but for now, that creates a nice background that you can kind of work with. Just straight lines, changing note once, then back over here. So let's take a look at another one of these examples here, just before we finish up. In this one, the beat is a little bit different. It's not quite the same. And so why don't we choose something that works so that the rhythm does go along with the bass line? You don't have to do this with every single one. Yeah, maybe let's do different notes. So we'll go up here for this, and then maybe here, and then maybe here. And then sticking with what I was telling you about going one space up. Actually, you know what? Let's listen to this first. Cool. So sticking with what I was saying about doing sort of one space up, and the notes will probably sound good. Here's what it sounds like if I just add one note, one space above, or two spaces above each of these. So notice how they've all got one little space in there. See what it sounds like. Not bad. And in the interest of time, we won't write all that out again, but you could repeat all that out here. I'll finish that up later. But yeah, simple, repeated, simple rhythms. In this case, we are going along with what we created in the steady beat, which sort of adds to the simplicity of it, and it's going to make the melody a little bit easier to hear. Let's do this one. What does this one sound like again? Okay. So here's what you could do for this. We're going to do something very simple. We're going to put two here, two here, here. Let's do that again. Oh, nope, not there. Wrong note. There we go. Here, here, here. And it's very, very straightforward, right? So we just got a couple notes, couple notes, couple notes, couple notes, and they're not going far, right? Like I'm not doing some up here and then some down here and then some up here again. They're very, very simple. It's just a little wave pattern that we got going on here. So take a listen to that. Cool. So if I add, like we were talking about with one space or two spaces above, and I do that, here's what it's going to sound like. All right, that's pretty catchy. So again, point is as simple as possible. If you're looking for notes that are going to work well together, one space or sometimes even two spaces in between is probably going to be best. And keep it predictable. Keep it repeated so that we're doing the same things so that it doesn't get in the way of what we're doing in the melody, which we'll talk about tomorrow. So have some fun. Once again, you don't have to send me anything for today, but if you want to, you can, and then that way I can take a look at it. Remember to save your work at the end and keep it somewhere safe so that you can come back to it tomorrow. All right, good luck.